Hello. Oh, you can hear me. Cool. Um, yeah. So this talk, I kind of started submitting the brief for it, and then what am I actually going to theme it on? And I just went, Dungeons and Dragons will do. Um, so yeah. My name is Brandon Wyatt. I am a security professional. I am a stand-up comedian. This is actually from I got some headshots done for promo stuff, and I think they just said, "Yeah, this is me today." I'm going to be Brandon the Wyatt, chaotic good wizard, noticer of things, and I'm still a nerd. Today's adventure, we're going to be visiting a deceivable dealer, an irregular invoice, and just generally making a hash of things, I think. Okay. Our journey begins. Your party travels north along the information superhighway. While following the series of tubes, you come across a ramshackle merchant cart. The cart has clearly been abandoned recently, and there is no trace of the merchant. While searching the cart, you discover a web payment form. Just one of the things I just kind of started looking at. I kind of noticed a few things. There's a price, there's enter some email, enter some details, check out with PayPal. So here I'm just going to roll initiative, and I've just got I spent a lot of time on this animation, so I really hope you guys appreciate it. Thank you. You definitely won't see that every time I need to do a dice roll. So yeah, I rolled quite highly there. So one of the things I did notice initially was in here you've got not zooming in. I just don't know how to press buttons. So here you've got the URL parameter for order type has a pretty simple value of 2. When I was going through the initial payment flow, there was only one option, so I don't know what happened to number 1. So I think what happens if I change that parameter? Oh, look at that. So I've changed just a simple changed that order type from 2 to 1, but it's actually it's given me a different price. So this could be something that the authors made secret intentionally if they've got like a sale price that they want to keep secret, or it could just be if they're offering people in general a discount. But it does make me wonder, if there's a 2 and there's a 1, what about the other numbers, or not numbers even? So I've set it to debug, and what that's done is set the price to blank. That's fine, I'm sure. What happens if I click on the checkout link? The payment of $0 is successful. I have full access to the service, which I test by using the service. Have I just done a crime? This is where I panicked a little. Maybe I've done something wrong here. The FBI and CIA are coming to kick my door down and take me away. So I just write up a little summary of, this is how I discovered it. This is where, this is maybe something you could do to fix it. And I sent an email to the support email address. And what I learned here was I learned a lot about how to disclose a vulnerability. So first up, check whether the company has a bug bounty program, because then they'll lay out the process for you. If not, see if you can find maybe a security contact email. Failing that, maybe even just an email to the generic support address. If you're contacting the security team directly, then try and outline, how you actually reproduce the vulnerability, what the ramifications could be. Bless you. But if you're starting out with level 1 support, then maybe just go with high level, just in case that's not something that they want to be super public. Another key thing I discovered here, yeah, that's how I escaped crime. The other thing I discovered here was make sure that if you are developing a system, that you know what happens when it fails. A lot of time developers will plan for this is the flow for everything going right, but then just something unexpected sends it into a completely different loop. I also got some loot out of this. I got 25 gold pieces, which is they just let me keep the product. So yeah, we'll continue on. Before departing the merchant's cart, you see a treasure chest half buried about 5 paces off the road. Something seems a little strange, sure, but you can't quite put your finger on it. Roll perception. Further scrutiny doesn't reveal anything out of the ordinary. This chest may be a little toothier than normal, sure. That's not necessarily a bad thing. You notice the nameplate on the front? It appears to read Microsoft. This name is well known in the realm. You know that the chest will list goods in voice. You may then place gold into the chest and receive your purchase. You gather up the required gold, all 2,000 coins, and reach deep into the chest to place it carefully inside. As you release the coins, you hear a deep rumbling from inside the chest. The chest vanishes from existence, leaving naught but the nameplate in its place. Looking closer at the nameplate, you realize you've been scammed. The gold has not gone to Microsoft, but an impersonator. So some minor lessons here. Always read carefully. And if you're not expecting an invoice, don't pay it. And if the invoice you are expecting comes from somewhere slightly different than normal, then just make sure to take extra precautions. And of course, loot, not so much. Yep, that went to the wrong person, and took some bit of damage to your ego too. A few months from now, you mention this event to a friend. She tells you that this is quite a common scam. People will intercept email, replace bank account numbers with their own, and send them on. You smile and nod politely, but as a wizard, none of what she said makes any sense to you. After the heartbreak of losing a good chunk of your gold, you decide to take a rest. You build a campfire and start to sleep. Shortly after, you are awakened by a rustling sound in the surrounding file system. You turn around to see the firelight reflected in the eyes of a SQL database. Roll initiative. Got you that time. Oh, nearly fell off the table. You invoke an ancient ritual. The ground pulses beneath your feet as you utter the incantation. Select star from users. The database offers a response to your invocation, which evokes some memories. You know that the only person who can fully control this creature is Dickie Bobbits, but maybe you can learn their password. It's time to meet a small man who has been in the sun for a while. That's right, it's time for a short tangent. So first up, we've got a bit of talk about hashing. Hashing is made up of a few different desirable attributes. First up, you've got trapdoor functions. So trapdoor functions are designed to be one way. It's very easy to figure out from this string what the hash would be, but it's very difficult, almost impossible to figure out from this hash what the original string was. So you get something like this, where you input password and you get an output. Depending on the type of hash that you use, you'll have a different output, but here's an example. And then they're also designed so that small changes in the input produce entirely different outputs. So just adding a single character to the end will give you a completely different hash, which is known as the avalanche effect. So something like this, where just by adding 1 to the password, The initial information is still the same, but the hash payload is completely different. So this means that you can add something different to the beginning or end of each password to produce a completely different hash. You could do this is known as salting a hash. So for each user, you put a known value, so it doesn't have to be a secret. Attach it to the end, hash that value, and even if two users have the same password, they'll get a different hash back. So looking back at the user table, you begin to remember more lessons from your numerology classes. You notice a few things. Your password is only slightly different from the default. That's a bit conspicuous. If they were being hashed as you expected, even a small change to the password should make a big difference. There's a chain of zeros at the end of each password, so maybe that's some sort of padding to make them all the same length. And then Cracklejack and Snapdragon actually have the same password hash, so it's pretty likely that they've got the same password and it's not being salted in any way. That brings us to a different short tangent about encryption. So encryption is generally designed to be reversible. You generally have some sort of key. So if you're using, for example, a Caesar cipher is a very simple one where you just rotate each letter by the number of letters that you choose. So if you do 13, then each one, A would be N, all the way through to whatever is Z. I didn't write that down. Or you could have a substitution cipher where each letter is replaced with the same different letter. You might use different ciphers where different substitutions depend on the position, and it could just depend on previous input as well. Plain text is exactly what it sounds like. As text intended to be read exactly as it is. In this context, it's the input text before encryption. And then, of course, ciphertext is the output text when you encrypt a plain text. So if you were to input the plain text, Christchurch Hacker Camp is awesome, into a ROT13 cipher, you'd get a corresponding ciphertext. And of course, I'm on this table, so I know some of the plain text here. Oh, my own password. As a wizard, there's not a lot of time for entering the wrong password in places. We just keep it simple. Last thing any wizard wants is a spelling error. Known plaintext attacks happen when you have some knowledge about the system. So if you know some plaintext and ciphertext pairs, the more pairs you have, the better you can look for patterns, frequencies, and other giveaway signs to break the encryption. So I know that the password of the plaintext of password 1 outputs the ciphertext, but I don't know any other plaintext yet. Or do I? It turns out that having access to the password reset functionality can help you generate more and more pairs of plaintext and ciphertext, which turns our known plaintext attack into something a little more helpful. A chosen plaintext attack allows for much more control. You can test arbitrarily, which allows you to check assumptions and verify information you think you've discovered. So we've got our table. If we change our password, we get a bit more information. Based on this, it seems pretty likely to be a substitution cipher of some kind. We do some mapping and we end up with something a bit like... we rinse and repeat that a few times, and soon enough we've mapped out all the characters we need to get cracking. So we've cracked Dickie Bobbits' password, giving us control over the savage beast. For good measure, we've cracked a few other passwords. Now what? So we've learned a few things here. First off, how to roll your own crypto. And if you're building an application with lots of parts that hang together, think about whether they might interact in a way that introduces a vulnerability. In this situation, one person having access to both the database and the application allowed them to discover a lot more information than either access alone. I'm not really expecting any reward here. It's internal software. The vendor isn't offering any sort of bug bounty, and I just really want to help protect our users. Surely helping the vendor secure their information is its own reward. And what we got was crickets. The vendor tells me that the encryption is perfectly suitable, despite me providing them with the password to their user account. After all, no one would ever use the same password in more than one place. And even if they did, you'd expect any user with access to the database to be trustworthy. There's no chance they could be hacked. After some back and forth, the vendor agrees to address the problem at a later date. No, they won't confirm when that date is. The efforts of wrestling with the SQL database and vendor have left you exhausted. You collapse next to the embers of the campfire, falling instantly into a deep slumber. You awaken hours later as a rugged man approaches. Wordlessly, he hands you a strange letter pulsing with energy. You look up to ask him where he came across such a mysterious artifact, but he has disappeared as silently as he arrived. You open the letter. Hey Brandon, when you have a chance, have a look at the below invoice. I've changed my whole online payment system and bank accounts around, so I have cancelled the previous invoice I sent you, and here is a new one with our new information on it. Sorry for the mess arounds. And there's just a link to an online hosted invoice there as well. I'm going to roll perception. Yeah, nat 20. Yeah, boy. Oh, wow. You just notice so many things that strike you as unusual. Firstly, the grammar isn't perfect, which we know is it always just means it's a scam automatically. It's also pretty strange for a business to just change all their payment information after sending an invoice. And the invoice isn't attached, but it links to a website you haven't seen before. This is all textbook scam. The message looks suspect. You could probably catch up to the courier to send a message back, but you just know that any message you send with him would go back to somebody you're not sure whether to trust. So you decide to contact your friend another way. Hey, just got an email from you with a new invoice. Wanted to check it was legit before I pass it on to our accounts team. Yep, it was from me. Good on you for not clicking mysterious links. Okay, so it's not a scam this time. Sometimes it's better to be safe than sorry. If you feel like something's not right, get in contact with the person in a different established way, like a phone call, or if you know them personally, then LinkedIn, Facebook Messenger, just some way that you can verify that's not the email that the potentially bad link came from. So gain some experience, verify out of band, or you just might verify with the scammer. Hey, we've restored that damaged ego from before. So that brings me to the end of my talk. I've just got a quick recap of what we've been through. Beware of enumeration vulnerabilities, fail safely, watch out for unexpected invoices, friends don't let friends roll their own crypto, trust but verify. And I'd just like to say thank you to the indie team at work for suffering through the horrendous first draft of this talk. My good friend Snap of Ototahi for turning me into a wizard for the talk. Doing the Photoshop that I am too stubborn to learn. The Chikamp crew for letting me give a talk, and thanks to you guys for listening. Most of the images have come just directly from PowerPoint's inbuilt stuff and licensed under CC BY-SA. Generated hashes in Rock 13 using CyberChef. So that's goodbye from me, but just because I am 5 minutes ahead of time, I'm just going to share one bonus slide. So I did attempt some AI generations of slides, of pictures, just because I thought that would be a fun thing to do. And it's quite tough, apparently, when you've got like 5 attempts to come up with a meaningful image because it's too cheap. So I struggled most with generating a mimic for the toothy treasure chest. Here's the closest I could get using the prompt treasure chest with visible teeth. Cool, that's it from me. Thank you very much.